The Kidnapping of the President is a 1980 Canadian political thriller about a presidential abduction and the Secret Service man that's trying to rescue him. Directed by George Mendeluk, The Kidnapping of the President stars William Shatner, Hal Holbrook, Van Johnson, Ava Gardner, and Miguel Fernandez. In an airport in Toronto, the President of the United States is about to begin his summit with Canada's Prime Minister. The President has his plans on how the trip will go, despite even the advice of Agent Jerry O'Connor, a member of his Secret Service detail. No one is prepared for a Central American terrorist that appears onto the scene driving an old bank truck that's rigged to explode, with the President trapped inside. With both the CIA and the Canadians wanting in on the action, can O'Connor outwit the terrorists and rescue the President in time? The United States Secret Service was established in 1865, a few months after the death of President Abraham Lincoln. To this day, they conduct investigations for the executive branch, but ever since the assassination of President William McKinley in 1901, they have assumed full-time responsibility for the safety of the presidents, past and present, as well as those closest in their circle. Coincidentally, this film was released less than a year before Secret Service agent Tim McCarthy would shield President Ronald Reagan during an assassination attempt in March of 1981. In 1980, a movie that focused on one of the president's bodyguards was a novelty. This film predates 1993's In the Line of Fire, starring Clint Eastwood, and the subsequent entries of this particular subgenre of political thriller that we can call Secret Service exploitation. So in that regard, The Kidnapping of the President was ahead of its time, with all of the basic traits and story beats of the subgenre. Another way this film was ahead of its time was its tone, closer to the patriotic thrillers that the 1980s would bring, rather than the cynical and paranoid political thrillers that 1970s audiences had embraced. Shatner's Agent O'Connor is that one decent man that's not about politics, he's just doing his job. And Holbrook's president may look like Jimmy Carter, but he gives off that cowboy maverick vibe that Americans would put in the White House for 2 terms. The enemy is from outside America, the conflict is unambiguous, and the CIA makes things worse. In fact, this film is so close to standard procedure that it feels more like a small screen adventure than a big screen one. For one, it was filmed in Toronto, and does look like a lot of American cop shows that are set in clean New York City. For another, there's not enough action set pieces that truly qualify as an 80s action film. But there are enough for a TV movie. And the performances across the board are TV scale, as in 70s and 80s broadcast television. William Shatner's agent is a more reserved T.J. Hooker. That converts to about 2/3 of a Captain Kirk on the Shatner energy performance scale. The most grindhouse sequence is the opening scene set in Central America, where our bad guys kill and torture their victims with machine guns, machetes, and a attack dog. It's bloody, makes the bad guy truly hissable, and is the reason this film has an R rating at all. Once the action moves to Canada, there are 2 action set pieces of note. The kidnapping sequence, of course, starting around minute 40, and just before that, the scene where they stop at the gas station around minute 33. Several folks get shot, including in the crotch, and this scene has the best explosion of the movie. Now, there's no nudity on screen for this film, but there's this attempt at a seduction scene in the truck in minute 25, and there's a scene around minute 90 where the president, while he's sitting on a bomb, has a heart-to-heart talk with his wife that starts turning into pillow talk. Besides the Hollywood stars in the cast, there's a memorable turn from Maury Chaykin as the bomb maker. He won several of Canada's top acting awards in his lifetime and achieved that guy status in American films in the 80s and 90s. George Mendeluk would direct more big screen features, but he became quite prolific in action television series, really hitting his stride in the mid-90s syndication boom in North America. In 2017, he got more personal and more epic with Bitter Harvest, a big screen dramatization of the Ukrainian struggle against Stalin's Soviet Union before and during World War II. The Kidnapping of the President is a recommend for fans of 80s cop shows, especially if you prefer the general tone of CBS cop shows over the kind on ABC or NBC. It's not LA flashy or New York gritty, it's Midwest/Canadian gray. If you consider yourself more of a movie person, this film won't be enough on its own. It may work best as a hair of the dog kind of film, your first movie of the day to work your way up to watching bigger ones. In fact, this film complements well with any of its subgenre peers. It sets the template and accentuates the strengths of whatever it's paired with. It's not the star of the show, but right beside.